All right. Baby is down. You know what that means? It's go time. It's always weird when my first words of the day being said out loud are in a microphone speaking to a blank TV in a dimly lit room. I guess here goes nothing. This episode with Jenna Redfield was inspiring. It's time to admit that we live in the age of the influencer. There is no undoing where we're at right now with the connectivity and social media where it's at. You better be of influence if you want to make money in the ether, in the matrix. You have to be garnering eyes. That's the most important thing. And Jenna has done so with her collective, the Twin Cities Collective. I'm glad to be a part of it. My brother Matt Wiest, I believe it was Matt Wiest who got me into it, even though it was introduced to me by Caleb Van de Man from Social Works. It was during our Gary V push, and we needed to tap into all influencer markets that we possibly could. And Caleb, one day at Social Works, brought up this girl named Jenna at Twin Cities Collective. And then we linked up with Matt Wiest, and he endorsed her as well. So we got involved, and now we are doing work together. It's incredible. This past week has been nuts. This episode was supposed to be out earlier, but as some of you know, we had our sold-out prof show last week, and it's kind of like after you throw a big event, you have this moment of kind of anti-clarity, where that's your identity for a while, throwing this big event. And then reality kicks you in the teeth the following day after it's all said and done, after it all went smooth. And you're receiving all the praise and the attention. Oh my God, when's the next one? When's the next one? Little do these people know you've already been working on like 3 more. But now those ones kick into overdrive because you got to be pulling the trigger. And by pulling the trigger, that means transferring lump sums. That means booking everything from A to Z, production, security, employees, subcontractors. If people only knew what goes into large-scale events, you probably wouldn't even partake. Now, over the final month of our prof show, it sold out a month early, and we had to turn down over 300 people. That's where venue space comes into play, because that's thousands of dollars. That's for the prof show, that's pushing $10,000 a profit I had to turn away. And it hurts. It's gut-wrenching, because you want more people. These people are going to your pages, consuming your content, and you have to turn them away. You have to say, no, you cannot be a consumer this time. That hurts. In the age of influence, that's what we do. We need more attention. And when consumers are willing to pull out their card and spend their hard-earned dollar on your product, it hurts. And that's where we can never have a venue space shortage. Today, I've been courted by the Empire Group. I have a meeting with them today. I meet with the First Avenue Group tomorrow, because we have booking rights all over the Twin Cities now. And unfortunately, down in Rochester, venue space is tight. And the honey hole amount is hard to come by. We need the 800 to 1,000 person venues is what we need now. We built up to that. No longer 150-person venues. We'll still do some of those for our local shows, but we can't, because as a promoter, man, your energy is worth so much more. When you do it and you do it correctly, you can't come up short. And I'm sorry, but like, for recap, rooms that are filled up look a heck of a lot better. And that's what we are doing. We're filling up rooms. When we were at the Lumber Exchange a few weeks ago for Matt Weist's 2-year anniversary for Center of Movement, it was incredible to see the Lumber Exchange filled up with a bunch of hippies doing yoga. It was awesome. If people only knew the stress that goes into that right there and how much support you need. Support is key. To have the faith of like the Eric Carrows and the AJ Hawkins from Hawk and Halt, Eric Carroll from Northern 19, Ryan Utterback from P-Rock Studios, Rob Dunham from All-Star Basements. To have these people cutting me checks for my events because they know what it takes, words can't describe how much I appreciate them. The Adam Kirchhoffs from Lapidary Jewelers, who wrote me a raving review because pulling off the event is one thing. Being diplomatic and graceful when you're the leader of an event is a whole nother ballgame. So when you see me at events, you won't see me all sloshed out. You see me walking around, looking people in the eyes, saying thank you and shaking hands. Because I value you. And I want you to come around the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Because we have established ourselves and gotten to the point now where if we stamp our logo on anything, be present. Consume. Join us. That's the most important thing. The branding is one thing. The work that goes behind the brand to be able to be that bat signal is a whole other ballgame. The 3,400 hours I put in to get me Gary V. Let's see here for prop. I started last year. We struck out. So probably 1,500 hours I put into Prof in Rochester. I'll never get that time back. And I respect myself enough to politic the room, to move around it gracefully, shake everyone's hand, say thank you, even to the drunk dudes trying to throw elbows. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. This is what I do. To the point now, my company is paid to go garner attention for other people. It's what we do. And I think calling us a promotional company is a disservice because we are so much more than that. We are an event and media company that also provides smiles, loving moments, clothing, consultation. I have so many people paying me an hourly rate just to consult them on the bullet points of what it's going to take for you to do this summer festival, for you to do this little get down, this big get down. I put in my hours for you so I can help you. So you don't have to make the same mistakes I've made. Unfortunately, through this process, you have people and entities take you for granted. They look at you as a peon. Why is that? They don't have what it takes to do what you do. And it's okay. we come across that every single day. Where people who might succeed in one realm, they think they can do it all. They get cocky. And unfortunately, time will humble them. But that's the way of the world. We've all been humbled in one way or another. I think back to our dinner with Gary V. And Gary and I are up on the podium, chit-chatting, a couple microphones in hand. You know, there's 300 plus, this is before the event, this is the dinner prior, 300 plus movers, shakers, moguls in that space with us. And Gary, we were talking sports, and Gary was talking about courting Karl Anthony Towns to his team. Now, this is kind of where I wish I would have bit my tongue, but like I was just being completely transparent and honest because, you know, I've been a season ticket holder for the Timberwolves, and I see Karl Anthony Towns not as a leader. I see him as a young pup who is successful, who is very skilled. But I grew up in the age of the Michael Jordans and the Kobe Bryants, the dogs that led their team, that willed their teams to championships. I kind of called a spade, and I was like, no, I don't think Karl Anthony Towns is going to lead us to the promised land. You can have him, Gary, because he was talking about courting him to the New York Knicks. It's like, dude, you can have him. Go ahead. And I was like, I don't like to be a season ticket holder knowing we have a matinee game the following Sunday, but he's up till 1 o'clock playing video games on Twitch. That was the point. And it's like, I didn't need to say that. But at the same time, it's like, fox it, we were in the moment, right? But it's things like that and why I strive to be even more diplomatic at all times, because it's like, I want everyone to shine. You know? But like things like that I can't let go of. I feel just gross that like we even got into that. But that's just me being obsessive. And I think that's what it takes is being obsessive, being a perfectionist. Because then you're forced to be humbled because you realize, man, I'll never be perfect. I'll never be good enough. But at the same time, I can still accomplish things. And I think that's what sets so many back is we live in this fear-based world and we have this fear-based mindset where we think we'll never be good enough, so we never even try. And that's a very dangerous mind state and a very dangerous place to be. We'll always be an unhappy, downtrodden employee in a nutshell. And I know I have way too much to give to this world in my short span that I'll be here to even accept that thought. To not try? Absolutely not. I feel bad. I feel bad for people who say it, and you can see it coming from a mile away when you ask them why. Why didn't you? Then they immediately go into this woe is me, this fear-based thinking. It doesn't come off in their head as fear. It comes off in their head as they're not good enough. But if they would just try. I was having coffee with one of my rabbi friend, Rabbi Shlomi Green, yesterday. And he brought up Leviticus. And it was out of left field. I didn't even expect it. And he was talking about keeping the flame lit at all times. And how the flame remains lit is you keep putting one foot in front of the other and you do it. You do it with conscious intent of doing good. And that flame will continue to stay lit. You know the old adage, take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back? This is the polar opposite. We take 3 steps forward. We might take 2 steps back. We might put our foot in our mouth. We might make a mistake, stub our toe along the way, but it doesn't matter. We keep pushing forward and keeping that flame lit, keeping oxygen rolling. Take a deep breath. Know you are good enough. That's the most important thing. You are worth it. You owe it to yourself to try. That's why I gravitate around the Brandon Polizouks from Social Butterfly, the Sonny Prabhakars from the Commission, the Jenna Redfields from the Twin Cities Collective. These are people that know nothing but trying, nothing but taking a leap of blind faith, knowing it's all going to work out. That's the most important thing. You owe it to yourself. Give it a shot. And if no one's there to pat you on the back, by golly, pat yourself on the back. We have to deal with this going to the gym, take a few days off, you might have some lower reps, doesn't matter, you're back. You're still getting after it. Same thing in business. The bumps, the bruises, the failures, the no's, they're meant to happen so you can be great. You owe it to yourself. Excuse makers, don't allow them in your circle. 86 them. You owe it to yourself. You grew up with a naysaying parent? Who cares? Next time they call, 8 a.m., don't pick up the phone. You're too busy getting after it. Talk to them at 6 p.m. when you're done getting it. And let them know you're a success story. You owe it to yourself. Auditing your circle is the most important thing you can do for yourself. Surround yourself with winners. If you're the least successful person in the room, you're winning. That means you're surrounding yourself with doers. No more excuses. When I wake up in the morning, if you only knew what's going through my head. I've got to conquer the world today and raise a child. There's something powerful in that. Knowing that I no longer live for myself. And that's how I feel about my team as well. Not like they're disciples, not like they're my children, but I got to succeed for them. Because I know I'm nothing without them. Our collective has grown so strong, I honestly feel like we can take over the world. We have so many big plans coming down the pipeline. And together we will succeed. So with that being said, I hope you got something out of this. Follow Jenna Redfield and the Twin Cities Collective on everything. And if you're feeling up to it, support the stationary astronauts. I love you.
And I'm gonna be high as a fucking man.
And now, the stationary astronaut.
Now we're live.
Now we're live. Awesome.
Jenna, Miss Twin Cities Collective.
Yes.
How does it feel?
Good. I love it. I don't know what else to say. It's funny because it's been so long that I've been doing it, but it's only in the last 6 months that I feel like it's really hit me that I built something big. And that's something that I always, it's going to events and stuff that really make it real for me. And maybe not the everyday. It's the actual talking to people that have been part of the group for a while that really makes an impact for me. So
It's so awesome to be involved with you because you've kind of taken a blueprint and ran with it. Being an influencer for influencers in a nutshell. And what that has kind of been compiled of locally here is all of us young entrepreneurs and business owners.
yes.
We were talking before we went hot where I come from small business, so it makes me be a Robin Hood for small business. Do you find yourself in the same realm?
100%. I don't know why, but at first when I started Twin Cities Collective, it was just for bloggers and online businesses. But what I've realized, the people that need the most help with marketing is small businesses, local. And so I've really gotten a heart for those people because they're the ones that benefit the most, I think. I think the online businesses, they already have online communities. They can kind of figure it out. The bloggers kind of have their own groups. But it's the small businesses that are just like, we don't know anything about digital marketing. Maybe they've been around 20 years. Maybe they are a family business. They recently took over someone's business and they're just like struggling because they don't know how to get the word out. And I feel like our group has provided a space for them to learn and also to connect with their audience.
What's the receptivity been with the parents of millennials who still own businesses? What's the kind of, have they taken this and ran with it?
It's funny because a lot of they just have their kids do their social. And what I think they need to learn is that not every millennial knows how to use Instagram and social media for marketing. They might know how to use it, but you have to really have those skills of, okay, well, you can just post on someone's social and it might not grow. But I feel like that is kind of an entry point is, oh, my parents have a business. Can you help with it? Or like my dad was like, oh, there's a guy I work with who is invested in a restaurant. Can you help with it? Like just getting the word of mouth about it. A lot of people that join our group have been told they need to join it by a friend. That to me shows, okay, there's enough here that there actually is word of mouth. And I think that that's something that I strive to do offline as well as online. So.
And that's key, where word of mouth offline is the bread and butter. It always has, and it always will be. And then social media has turned into a main component, a main tool.
It's a connector.
Yeah.
And I think, yesterday, as we're recording this, Instagram was down like all day and people are freaking out. And I was like, you know what? We're just a day off. It's just a day off for me. Like, I don't have to worry about it. I know it'll come back. It's just, but I think it hit me and a lot of people how much they rely on social to stay connected to people and how distant they felt. Like, I can't talk to my audience. That's a scary thought, because you build up, like for us, I try not to put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to a platform. Like, for example, Vine a couple years ago, people were building millions of followers and then it shut down. And it's like all that hard work that you built is just gone. So it's like, you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket when it comes to social, but you also do want to grow. I mean, so I also have an email list. I also do other social media besides Instagram, but Instagram is our biggest platform. So it's just kind of figuring out all of that. So
my group chat was hopping yesterday.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. When
was it on Slack or something or what
no,
platform?
on just iMessage. So
iMessage,
since
okay.
Facebook and Instagram were shut down, everyone was like biting their nails. I don't know what to do. Hey, at least we can send memes on our group chat.
Exactly. And like Twitter was blown up because Twitter was fine. And so people were like, hey, I'm back on Twitter after 2 years. It's just kind of people like just we have this need now to be connected no matter what. And I think that is something that a lot of people forget what it used to be like when we didn't have those connections to people.
With where you've taken Twin Cities Collective, we spoke last week at Link and Drink.
Yep.
We got to go, not so much in depth, but we got to be surfaced about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have a 5-year plan with where you want to take it? And I know this is a cliche question, but...
Well, it's funny because I actually have been talking about 5-year plan because I don't have one. And I was talking to my dad actually, and he says, because of how fast things are going, like he was talking, he works at Cargill and he actually knew the CEO back at his old job. And he remembers something the CEO said was never have more than an 18-month plan because you never know how things are going to change. But I feel like I need to even just have a plan. And that's something I've been trying to figure out. One of the ideas I have is to go kind of the agency route and bring in other people and kind of become more of a marketing agency. Then there's the other idea of just becoming almost like influencer hub. There's just so many different routes that I could go and I need to figure that out. So the answer to your question is I don't. Because honestly, starting Twin Cities Collective was just kind of on a whim. And I feel like I just kind of take it day by day. And I always have so many ideas. And it's just figuring out which ones are going to sustain and which one I'm going to enjoy doing in the long run. And I feel like I'm on the right path. I love doing events and workshops. I also do a lot of coaching. But it's figuring out, okay, what's going to make me money? How am I going to sustain this business forever? Or at least until I don't want to do it anymore. And that's the part I struggle with is the long-term planning. So I guess the answer to your question is I don't know what my 5-year plan is.
18 months is very interesting because I live day by day.
Same, yeah.
Obviously, I have a schedule and I stick to that schedule.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people are asking me, hey, can you be a part of this in June, end of May? It's like, I cannot give you a solidified answer. For the last 3 months, my boy, one of my good friends, has been trying to get me to go to Burning Man. He wants me to go. Nick, you need to come experience. It's like, listen, I don't even know where I'll be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I have to drop back because I'm a yes man. So
Yeah,
I say
I am
yes
too.
to, and I see that. We talked about this, saying yes to so many opportunities, and it kind of devalues the word no. And then once we start scaling back all of our yeses, it adds value into our next yes.
Yeah. It's so funny because I had Fallon on, we were talking about this before, and she talks about, she gets so many opportunities to go on things and she has to say no to a lot of them. She's got a, husband and son now. So it's like, she wants to say yes to what she only believes in. And for me, like I've just been saying yes to things just because I'm like, no press is bad press, I guess, at this point. And I want to keep promoting and getting my name out there. But at some point, I know there's going to be like a time where I'm just going to be like, nope, I don't have the capacity to do that. But right now I'm a little bit more open for time wise, I guess.
Anytime, it's a rule on the Stationary Astronaut podcast, anytime Fallon's name is brought up, we have to side skirt and say how much of a sweetheart she is.
Amazing. Yeah. I was so happy that she came on my podcast. It was just, I was like, I'm interviewing someone who does radio full time. That's crazy. Like that's insane. So if she's listening to this, hey Fallon.
Hey Fallon, we're going to make sure we create a video just for you.
Yeah,
you are the biggest sweetheart ever. We love you so much.
Yes. So I think that it's just figuring out what you want with your business. What are your capacities? I was just listening to a podcast literally on the way here talking about how being decisive in your business is really important and knowing your limits and learning to say no. Because it's like you might want to follow all the shiny things, but if they take you away from your main mission, then they're just distractions at that point.
Thank you for saying that. They become distractions. We're unable to give 100% of our energy to them.
Yes.
And then they're sucking their energy vampires away from big things we are working on.
That happens to me all the time. And I don't know how to say no when it comes to things that I want to do, but yet maybe aren't the best. And so there was one event that I just turned down. I just decided no. But like, then there's things like, there's a podcast conference coming up in June. It's the first one in Minnesota and I've been asked to speak at it. And I'm like, that's awesome. Cause it's something that I can use to promote my podcast. And it's just something that I think is the right step for me to kind of get my name out to all the people that maybe haven't found us yet. And it's a totally different audience. It's all podcasters. I'm mostly focused on social media. So it's kind of a different audience. So that's what I say yes to is like the new audiences, people that maybe had never heard of me before.
Big time value there.
Exactly.
I'm dealing with it where over the last year and a half, I've taken on presidency of the Lions Club and JC's Junior Chamber.
Okay.
And I've had to scale it back to the point where I have to write my resignation letters.
Oh, wow.
Just because I can't. I just cannot.
Yeah.
I'm doing so much already for my community. I'm selling myself short and the club's short.
I think that I have had to stop things and I've had to leave things because of that too. And I think like I was actually part of a team where I do a lot of video also on the side, video editing. And that was kind of my past life. And I was part of a team where her daughter unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer. And so she was busy and I just felt like I was just waiting around for them, and her daughter's okay now, but it was just what wasn't the right fit for me anymore. Cause like everything had changed for them as a business. And I was just like, you know what, this isn't right for me. And this is now my third business I've started. And the last two I've had to close. And it's just because I find a better option. And, it's the hardest thing in the world to close a business because you've put so much time and energy and money but every business, I feel like I've gotten better at it. And I feel like I've learned so much. And it's like, yes, I'm saying goodbye to it. But at some point, you hit your limit of what can I do with my time and self.
Same thing with the event game. Once you consistently throw them, put them on, it becomes seamless where and then people approach you because they need consulting. I do consulting on the side for people who need help with throwing events.
Okay, that's great.
I always come out of the gate with the tough questions, and their questions to prevent them from dealing with the early headaches I had to deal with.
That's what I feel like I do with everything I do is I try to help people prevent what I had to go through.
Yes.
And I think that's actually one of my biggest motivators is when I graduated from college, it took me a year and a half to find a full-time job. A year and a half. I had a bunch of part-time jobs. I was I was obviously really scrappy, but like I don't want to have anyone else go through that. And I think that is a huge motivator for me in Twin Cities Collective to try to help people either find a job or make money doing what they love. Because I wish I had that.
Talk about the spirit boost too.
What was that?
The spirit boost. You actually are doing something that you're passionate about, and it's not as soul sucking as prior engagements where you actually get to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I think that I am the kind of person who I have to be loving what I'm doing. I've had a lot of jobs in the past where it's okay. It's kind of what I like to do, but not really. And I just, after 6 months, I'm just dying inside. Like literally, like every day I'm like, oh, I have to go to work. And that's why it's so hard for me to not be an entrepreneur. Like I have to be an entrepreneur because it's like, I have to do what I love. I can't live without that. And there's people that are just willing to spend their life doing whatever. It's not a big deal to them. They're just, okay, it's my job. I go to work, I come home. I'm an empath. I don't know if you know what that is, but basically my feelings are very, very at the surface and I can very much feel everything. And if I'm not happy every single day, I become very sad and angry and depressed. So for me, having something like Twin Cities Collective, it keeps me so motivated because it's not just me, it's the group that I'm leading. And I feel like that's what keeps me going. And I've never had a business where I've really just, every thought I have during the day is about it. Literally everything I'm thinking is always about my group and always about my business. And I've had previous businesses where it's kind of like, it's a business. This has been so, like I've kept this going and been so motivated for 2.5 years. I can't believe it. Sometimes I'm like, wow, I can't believe I've been doing this long.
We look at you, and I'm speaking for the collective right now. We look at you as a leader we can rely on because I feel like you've created this family beyond anything.
Exactly.
The Matt Weiss, the us, the back pockets, just all of us together. And that is a great position to be in as a leader where your disciples, we're all equals, but we'll call us your disciples. We rely on you. And you are a great tool for the movers and shakers for the Twin Cities. Yeah. And that is not to be taken lightly. Yeah. So put that in your pipe, smoke it if you got them. And just know that we're here for you just as much as you're here for us.
And I really do appreciate when people say that because that's what keeps me going is that feeling of, oh, this is really important to not just me, but to everyone. And it's kind of a lifeline to people. Like what I've learned is so many people have met people through the group and people have like literally started businesses with the people they've met. They've gone on trips together, literally. I had 2 of my friends go on a trip to Miami together because they met through the group. Like, it's crazy the amount of people have needed this. And I think it was such a demand in the market for Twin Cities Collective. Like what I've built, I'm like, it's hard to replicate. And so I feel like I kind of have my own little category, but it's something I wish I had 3 years ago. And so that's why I feel like it's got done so well, is it's so needed.
Hold on to it.
Hold on. And that's my biggest fear is something happening and everyone leaving. I think I have a fear of rejection more than probably any fear in my life, just because I've been through seasons where I had no friends. And I feel like that is a huge motivator for me to keep building my community, building my network, having as many people as I possibly can in my back pocket so that I never have to go through that period of my life again.
Okay, so then let's make a checklist of what we need to keep you away from. Tequila.
Yeah, I actually don't really drink too much.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we'll nip that right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to keep you away from some stuff. That way we can keep this trucking because we are definitely in your corner relying on you. Now, when it comes to how you're scaling this thing up and staffing.
Yeah.
Now, are you volunteer based right now?
So, yes. So I was reading a book. It's called The E-Myth Revisited. I don't know if you've read of it or heard of it. It's basically talking about why most businesses fail most small businesses, most entrepreneurs, like 80% of them after 1 year just don't exist anymore. And one of the things they talk about is scaling. Yeah. Like hiring people on. I've been doing it by myself for the whole time. I have had people come in for specific projects, like we had a web designer and all that stuff. But I feel like this is probably weird, but most people volunteer because they get as much out of it as I do. When it's an event photographer, I tag the heck out of them. If it's a web designer, they get all the praise and I refer them all the time. And people come to me a lot for referrals. So it's like they really trust who I recommend. So I've been really able to run everything very, very, I guess, basic. I don't have to have a lot of expenses. We don't have an office. Like I do it out of my house. So, but I feel like I'm now at a point where I want to bring in a team, project-based wise. We're actually launching something soon where we're going to offer web design, all that stuff that people come to me all the time and I just send them away. We're going to bring it in-house and say, hey, we can design it for you. And we'll have the team ready and available. So eventually, I'm also launching a YouTube series. So I'm bringing in people for that. So it's kind of more per project basis, but I feel like I can handle a lot of the stuff that we do. Eventually, as we grow and build, I would love to have an assistant and like all these things. It's just right now, I just need to get my income consistent and then grow from there. It's figuring out what do I want to do on a daily basis that makes me money. Because that's the thing about the group. It was free for a long time and I wasn't making any money. It was just a hobby. And now that I've transitioned it more to a business, it's that growing pains of, okay, well, how do I make money with this? And that has been a little bit of a struggle.
We have the kind of companies where it can be subcontractor based for the most part.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people are really getting into virtual assistants, which are very good for some of that monotonous stuff. It's just very tough when you and we are empaths and our messages are personalized, our emails are personalized, and that's where a little bit of that glimmer is lost with a virtual assistant.
Yeah, I think, and the thing about Twin Cities Collective is I want to have everything in person. That's why I like local business, is because I thrive when I'm in the same room as someone versus sitting at home by myself. And I think I've been part of teams where communication is chaos and I just don't want to be part of it. And I feel like being your own project manager is a really big role. And I think that eventually I would love to have someone do the podcast promotion and setting up every episode. And I would love to have someone handle my emails. It's getting to that point. And at what point do you hire it out and then take bigger leaps versus doing it yourself and staying the same, which I feel like I'm kind of doing right now. I'm just kind of staying neutral and I need to grow. And it's hard sometimes to take those big steps.
What's your favorite book of all time?
Like business book or any book?
All time.
Gosh, you should have asked me this before because I gotta think about. I actually really love the book, The Psychology of Persuasion. I read it in college and it kind of changed things for me because I was like, oh, I used to be very naive and very gullible, and I feel like that book really changed the way that I think about how people sell and talk to me. And so I learned a lot from that one. I'm trying to think of other ones. I'm reading, obviously, I don't know why Harry Potter is like one of my favorite books. I was just like, that's like a great one. But I don't know. I've read a lot, and I think I used to volunteer at the library actually, and I've spent a lot of my life reading. Oh man, there's so many books. That's the same thing about movies. I'm like, you ask me my favorite movie, I'm like, there's so many.
What's your favorite Dr. Seuss book of all time?
It's one that a lot of people don't know. It's called The 500 Hats of Bartholomew Cubbins.
Ooh.
And what's interesting about that book is the Children's Theater of Minneapolis, they had an exclusive right to put that show on. And so I went to it as a kid and I loved it. Basically, it's about this boy who he had a hat and the town made him take it off. And then every time he'd take it off, there was another hat underneath. So he basically walked through town and he kept taking out, and people kept trying to take his hat off, but there was always a hat underneath. So it's a great book, and no one's ever heard of it, and it's my favorite one. And I loved it because I thought it was just so visually beautiful, just the idea of taking the hat off and there's still a hat underneath. And he was just kind of breaking the status quo with somebody tells you to take it off, you still got one underneath. So I don't know what lessons there could be learned from that.
Having a 1-year-old baby,
Okay.
growing up on Dr. Seuss, we kind of took him for granted. Just the brilliance of how he wrote his books and obviously the illustration. Now, picking up book after book after book for my daughter, those rhymes that Dr. Seuss was spitting in a league of their own.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's why a lot of adults still read them, you know, like that's why all the places you go is a graduation gift because it has a deeper message. And I think that everyone can learn from him. And I think that that's why he's a classic. I love all of his movies too. I love all the movies that I missed The Grinch, the new one, but I love the one with Jim Carrey. That's a great one.
What's your favorite interview you've ever done?
On my podcast or, I did one with my friend Yasna and I know a lot of people, I cried in it, which I always think it's a good interview if I cry. And she's actually a really, really dear friend of mine now. And that was one of the first times we'd ever met. And so that one, it's like probably episode like 60 or something of my podcast, but that was a good one. I like that one a lot.
Yasna?
Yasna. It starts with a J.
I'm going to have to tune into that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. And she's one that brings out a lot of me that she's like a life coach, business coach. So I always love when business coaches come on because then they turn the interview around and talk to me and I'm answering the questions. So I had a few life coaches on and they would ask me questions back. Usually when you're being you're the interviewer, you're the one asking the questions. But when they're on, they just turned it around and went to me. And I kind of like that. So
it's like a free consultation.
It is live. And I know it's funny because my mom listens to every podcast. So she always talks about it afterwards. She's like, oh, you said that? And I'm like, yeah.
Shout out to mom.
Shout out to mom. I'll tell her to listen to this one too.
Now, when it comes to tools in your tool chest, what would your top 3 tools you have in your tool chest be?
Like actual online tools or?
They could be online tools or personal traits.
Oh, okay. I'll talk about my favorite online tool. It's called Dubsado. I don't know if you've heard of it, but basically it manages my invoices, proposals, scheduler, lead forms. Everything I do with clients, I use Dubsado. I use Squarespace as my website platform of choice. I've used both WordPress and Squarespace. I've chosen Squarespace for its ease of use, and it just has that's how I do the podcast. I do everything through Squarespace. When it comes to my personal traits, I'm very, very, very good at picking things up quickly. I feel like I can, if there's a challenge, I do it myself. I don't outsource a lot of things. I want to learn it myself. And so that idea that I can literally just sit down, read a bunch of articles, watch a video, figure it out. I think that's something a lot of people don't have. And people have told me, they're like, you're really good at consuming the information and then spitting it out in a way that people can understand. And so that's why I do a lot of workshops is I've spent 2 years building up an Instagram account to 14,000 followers. I can really simplify what I've done and share it with the group in a way that they understand from someone who's maybe never touched Instagram in their life.
That's a gift, being able to regurgitate for the lay person.
Yes. That is something I think I'm really good at. And I think a lot of people aren't. They tend to speak in jargon. They tend to say things that are maybe higher level than a lot of people can. And so you always have to think in the mind of the person listening. What are they capable of? You never know. I'm speaking to a room of 30 people. There might be someone who's never touched Instagram and there might be someone who has been using it for 2 years, So I think you just have to go with kind of the 6th grade mentality. That's what they always say. Like, talk to them as if they're in 6th grade.
That's my favorite, when scientists and really smart doctors still talk to me like I'm in 6th grade, where they're not trying to run circles around me with their jargon. It's like, listen, bro, do you realize you're skipping over the majority of us?
Yeah. I think that that's a skill that you have to grow because it's hard. You can talk at a higher level. Usually you know more than a 6th grader and you can talk to someone like they're in college, but most people aren't. So you kind of have to go with that basics and what are the things that someone in 6th grade can understand. And if they're even, because like that's the thing about my workshops, a lot of the people that are maybe even under sixth grade in terms of Instagram, they end up hiring me to just do coaching because they're just struggling even just through that one session. And then there's people that get it and they hustle and they get it. And then, so it's kind of figuring out who those people are that come to my events. How can I help the ones that need more help?
What was your most thankless job ever?
I had a job, and it's really funny because I met a girl at your event last week who works there. I'm not going to name it. And it was kind of like a telemarketing job where basically I would call people and get them to sign up for this thing. And people did not want to be called. I'm not a phone person to begin with. So having to talk to people on the phone, get them to go through this questionnaire and then potentially tell them that they're not qualified was the worst job I've ever had. And I take things, again, rejection, awful. And I was rejecting them too. So it's like, it was the worst job. I remember I cried one time because somebody was actually answered and was nice to me. It was like, I remember that one call where the guy was like, actually like really nice. And it's because it happened so infrequently that I can remember. And he was a doctor in like some Eastern state. And I just remember it because he actually was like happy. I know it sounds terrible, but like it was such a terrible job for me as my personality type. I lasted about 9 months and then I just quit. I was like, I cannot do this one more day.
You lasted that long?
I know. It was my first job out of college and I couldn't just quit. I wanted to quit after a week. And I was like, I had no other jobs that like, I was like, I can't just quit after a week. Like that, I have no other job and I needed something on my resume. So I was literally only doing it for my resume and said, okay, I can't just be here for 2 months. I would look terrible on my resume. So I wish I had quit earlier, but at the same time, I went until I literally couldn't take it a single day. And that's almost every job I've had where I've quit, which I've quit a lot of jobs. I literally go until the day something happens and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I've done that at least 3 times where I'm just like, this is it. I can't spend another day here. And usually, so many stories. The second, I'll talk about another job I had where I lasted about 1.5 years. It was better than this other job. I was actually doing marketing. But there was a day where the boss basically said, oh, we're up in sales. What a great job, team. But was talking about themselves when I knew it was me. That was the one that brought them more sales. And I felt like I didn't even get appreciated or it was like they didn't even acknowledge the fact that what I was doing was making a difference in the business and they thought it was them. So that to me was like, I feel like I'm not appreciated at all. So the thankless idea, I think being an entrepreneur and doing Twin Cities Collective and hearing the thanks has sustained me because I words of affirmation is one of my love languages. So for me, hearing from people that are actually grateful for what I do is one of my fuels in life.
Appreciation for your employees is so key. Richard Branson has a quote regarding how you treat your employees and then they'll treat you that way tenfold.
Yeah.
And it's so true. And being willing to leave a job is a power play. That's showing who's the real boss.
Yes.
I'm the boss of my life.
Yeah. And I think that so many people are scared to leave a job. And I don't know why. I'm like, there's always another job out there that's better. I think when you're torturing yourself for months and months, I just go, why? You only get one life. And I think by jumping and leaping into things, you can always get another job. So that's why every time I've quit a job to like do my business for a while, it's like, I can always get another job, but I hated this one that I was at. Or my dad's the kind of person where he'll only be at a job for 2-3 years.
Really?
Yes. He's had more jobs than I can count, but it's because he gets bored. Like he wants a challenge. It's like he gets a job, he likes it for a while, but then it's like he gets bored and it's like, I want a new challenge. And it's like, he's kind of the millennial mindset where you don't stay at a job for 30 years.
And it doesn't mean you're not a professional leapfrogging jobs.
I think you actually get more experience because you work with different types of companies. You, maybe different roles. If you're at the same job for 10 years, you only learn that job. You don't have as many skills as someone who's had multiple jobs. I've had probably 15 jobs in the last 8 years, at least 15. And And I've learned so much from each of them. And I appreciate all of them, but I don't want to stay with them forever, you know?
Goes back to your Dr. Seuss book. When you wear countless hats, you're also putting multiple tools inside your tool chest.
That was a good one.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing that is unique about me is I have so many skills that people don't even know what I'm known for, because I can do podcasting, I can do video, I can do Instagram, I can do, public speaking, event plan. Like I literally have so many things I know how to do that there's days where I'm like, I don't know which one I want to focus on because I can do them all. And that's why I think it's like a unique thing that I have all these different experiences and skills now. I can just choose which one I want and go with it or do them all. And that's kind of what I've done is I wouldn't want to just do one of those. I want to do all of them.
Now, I know you have a 2:00.
Yeah.
Before I let you go,
Okay.
we're going to do a short cast with this one.
Okay.
I want to talk about goal setting.
Okay.
The power of goal setting and the mishaps if you don't set goals. They could just be mental goals or they could be bullet point goals. Explain to me the power of goal setting in your life.
Yeah. So I struggle with goal setting, and that's why I think I haven't hit the goals that I probably should have set out loud. But one of the things I did this year was I said my goals out loud on my podcast. And one of the goals was to be on TV because I just wanted to be on TV. It was a new medium for me. And within a month I was on TV. And it's because I said it out loud. And a bunch of people messaged me after I was on TV. They're like, you said that on your podcast. And like, it's come true. I mean, I don't know if I'm not 100% sure if I believe in manifestation, but I do believe in saying things out loud will get your mindset to go that way, to actually put the steps forward to get that goal. And I think just saying your goals out loud, like one of my goals is to put on a conference. I originally was going to do it this year, but I feel like I just have too much going on that I moved it to next year. But it's like, I'm saying that out loud. I'm putting the steps in motion. And I think that you have to say it to your audience because they'll keep you accountable. I think having a goal and not talking about it, it's not the same. And I think just having goals that you can achieve step by step, not like super, super lofty goals where you're like, oh, I want to become a millionaire in 2 months. It might not happen. But by being like, oh, I want to become a millionaire in the next 5 years, that could happen. I think being realistic, but also maybe a little bit more than push yourself a little bit more than what you're doing now.
I love it. Consider the stationary astronauts on board to help you with the conference.
Okay.
Because
yeah.
I'll
yeah.
I'll tell you what not to do.
Okay, there you go. We could do a whole episode about that.
We could. Jenna, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tell people where they can find you.
You can find me at Twin Cities Collective on Instagram, at Twin Cities Collective on Facebook. You can join our group if you're in the Twin Cities. We only allow Minnesotans in there, so that's just like something I've decided is
Wisconsin, stay out of it.
The only people from Wisconsin are like people that live in like Hudson. That's like about the point I cut it off because I'm like, if you're like in Eau Claire, it's like, it's a little bit too far in. But Hudson's okay. I don't usually let people from Iowa or the Dakotas either. It's just it's a Minnesota thing. But you can also follow me at Jenna Redfield on Instagram. Instagram is my main platform. Or LinkedIn, actually. LinkedIn is great. I love LinkedIn. So you want to link with me? I don't know if that's a word. Link with me on LinkedIn.
Link and drink, LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
Let's link up. Jenna Redfield, Twin Cities Collective.
Thank you for having me.
Peace out.
Peace out.